Hindi lang salita ang poetry. It's a commitment, a life of one's own. If you want to please people, you have to be rich. So, pera lang talaga ang ang dahilan kung bakit ka mag-poetry. Kung wala kang pera, magpo-poetry ka. Yun ang pragmatic consideration ko sa yung sinabi ko ngayon hindi totoo, pwede rin man totoo. But ang problema is that we cannot always say poetry is good. I cannot say that. Mahirap kasi maging makata. Baka patayin ka. Pag nasabi ka ng katotohanan, baka patayin ka. Ay bata pa kayo. Wala na mangyayari sa buhay niyo pag pinatay pa kayo. So anyway, ang poetry naman hindi lang magandang salita. Madali namang magandang salita Madaling mag-effect of poetic. Pero ang problema lang talaga is that, are you willing to die for it? If you're not, mag-Starbucks ka na lang.
Good evening, friends. The poem Life Watch, written by our dear friend and professor, Edel Garcellano, begins with a question. How does one weigh a life? The desire of Edel to measure a life as he raises this question is processed by calculating its possible comparative references. In the next few lines, he asks, as heavy as a mountain, as light as a feather. However, despite the juxtaposition of these images, he continued to wrestle with these questions up to the time of his death. Despite the uncertainty on the weight of one's life, what is definitive for Edel would be the following painful truths. The state will not honor him. The imperialists and fascists will shrug their shoulders. The academe, unfortunately, will sigh in relief. Despite the apathy that Edel paints on social institutions and state structures, the poem closes with a warm image of a collectivity. His friends will huddle in a corner, thinking among themselves or ourselves, how brief is life when nights are long and sleep does not come. The poem ends with a social and political kinship that shares grief with the act of huddling together in a limited space of a corner, enduring the unbearable weight of someone's passing, yet persisting despite the surroundings' apathy and lack of compassion. Today, we are these friends, found in the poem of Edel, who are huddling in our little corner in this virtual space, honoring his persistence and sharing in it as we celebrate the birthday of our dear friend and Professor Edel Garcellano. We also pay tribute to his legacy, which has shaped our present and future worlds. I am Jomar Cuartero, and I will be facilitating our tribute this evening. Our program is divided into 3 different segments. In every segment, there will be recorded and live messages from some and family of Sir Edel.
Kawayanan, kawayanan doon sa tabing daanan. Hindi ba't lagi ay lunti o kaya'y ginintuan? Kawayanan, kawayanan doon sa bandang silangan. kawayan. Kawayan mo na, o neneng, ang nanay mong minamahal. Pinalaw niya ang mama mo sa malayo pang kulungan. Kawayanan, kawayanan doon sa bandang silangan. Hindi ba't lagi ay ginto o kaya na may luntian? Kawayanan, kawayanan doon sa tabing daanan. Ay araw-araw ring pinto sa landas ng kagitingan. Kawayan mo na, o neneng, ang nanay mong minamahal. Sa pulong bayan dadalo, babawiin ang sakahan. Kawayan mo na, o neneng, ang nanay mong mapagmahal. Sa tangan-tangan niyang sulo, nagpupugay ang kawayan. Kawayan mo na, o neneng, ang nanay mong minamahal. Sa pulong bayan dadalo, babawiin ang sakahan. Kawayan mo na, o neneng, ang nanay mong mapagmahal. Sa tangan-tangan niyang sulo, nagpupugay ang kawayan. Kawayan, kawayan mo na, o neneng, ang nanay. Kawayan mo na, o neneng, ang nanay. Kawayan mo na, o neneng, ang nanay.
Thank you, MC. Our first message will come from Tonchi Tinio, a colleague of Edel in the 90s and representative of ACT Party List. It will be followed by Jun Cruz Reyes, who is a fellow writer and a colleague of Edel in both PUP and UP Diliman. Next will be a student and friend of Edel at the Creative Writing Center of PUP. His name is MJ Rafal. Let's have now the video of Sir Tonchi.
Nakilala ko si Edel nang pumasok ako sa Department of English and Comparative Literature ng UP Diliman bilang instructor noong 1991. Tatlo kaming naging roommate sa faculty center. Ako, si Edel na lecturer, at isa pang bagong hire din na instructor na Filipino-American, si Jody Blanco, Jody. Naging magkaibigan at malabarkada kami ni Edel. Yung tipong minsan ay naaya pa namin ni John na makalaro siya sa basketball sa isa sa mga basketball court sa loob ng campus. Malapit si Edel sa aming grupo ng mga bago o batang faculty ng English Department noong panahong yon. Kabilang sina Carol Howe, Bliss Lim, Pat Arinto, Nana Mabilangan, Tess Dizon, at isa pang Filipino-American, si Ed Baluyot. Ito ang grupo na tinawag niyang Brat Pack sa dedikasyon ng kanyang koleksyon ng mga tula, ang una Furtiva Lagrima, na inilathala noong 1993. Maaaring sabihin na may mga bakas ng pakikipagsamahan namin kay Edel sa mga tula sa naturang koleksyon. Sa katunayan, yung larawan sa cover na kuha ni Bliss Lim na may magulong desk na may nakapatong na bisikleta ay larawan ng table ko sa faculty center. Kasama namin si Edel sa mga pag-uusap at paglabas ng mga hinaing ng aming grupo bilang mga kontraktual na guro sa English Department. Kabilang dito ang mga usapin ng workload at criteria para sa evaluation at renewal. Personally, ito ang unang pagkakataon na nakalahok ako sa sama-samang pagkilos para sa karapatan at kagalingan bilang isang manggagawa sa sektor ng edukasyon. Si Edel ang nagpakilala sa akin sa isa pang sirkulo ng mga kaibigan niya, ang grupo ng mga aktivistang veterano ng First Quarter Storm at paglaban sa diktadoryang Marcos. Kabilang dito si Monico Atienza, Joe Portugal, at maging si Domingo de Guzman na kapwa niyang lecturer din sa PUP at madalas na tumambay sa faculty center. Ang panahong ito ng unang hati ng dekada 90 ay panahon ng unang pamamayagpag ng theory na naging trend sa mga department ng panitikan sa maraming bahagi ng daigdig, kabilang na sa UP. Hinamon dito ang ilang dekadang paghahari ng formalismo, new criticism, pagpabor sa makitid na pamamaraan ng close reading of the text at ideolohiya ng humanismo. Naging mahalaga ang papel ni Edel sa prosesong ito. Bilang isa sa mga pinakaaktibong literary critic sa panahong yon, tumindig siya para sa patuloy na kabuluhan ng class analysis, teorya ng imperialismo, ugnayan ng teorya at praktika sa kasagsagan ng panlalait sa Marxismo, dulot ng pagbagsak ng USSR at iba pang nominally socialist states mula 1989 hanggang 1991. Dalawa ang tinunggali niya sa kanyang literary criticism, ang mga Cold War anti-communist sa hanay ng mga literary old guard at ang pagtakwil sa Marxismo ng mga tagapamandila ng bagong teorya sa panahon ng neoliberal globalization, post-structuralism, post-colonialism at iba pang katulad nito. Masasabi kong ito ang isang mahalagang legacy ni Edel sa ilan sa amin na nakasama niya anong panahong yon. Paalam Edel at pakikiramay kay Chat, kay Risa at kay Lira.
Magandang gabi. Hinihingan ako ng mga kasama natin sa panulat na magsalita ako para sa parangal sa ating kaibigan Edel Garcellano. Ikiniklaim na si Ingo de Guzman daw, si Edel Garcellano at ako, magkakasama kami sa Institute of Creative Writing as senior advisor. Pero earlier on, noong 80s, staff kami ng Institute for Social History. Si Ingo ang aming director. Ang gusto ko lang linawin, kaming tatlo ay produkto ng aming henerasyon. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Produkto kami ng 70s. Panahon ng student activism. International yan, hindi lang sa Pilipinas. Panahon ng first quarters doon. Panahon ng pag-asa, ng pagbabago, ng pagbabaklas, at ng hinihintay na revolution. Ang mantra noon ay rethink, rewrite, revise. Para siguro maganda, ikwento ko sa inyo paano yung nangyayari sa UP. Sa basement ng AS, Palma Hall, nandoon yung kantin ni Mami. Historical to, hindi ka anong alam. Yun yung tambayan ng lahat ng radikal, lahat ng intelektual ng UP. O kung gusto mong sabihin, ito yung alternative UP na katapat lang ngayon ay Saras. Dito unang tumambay sila Jomar, Jose Maria Sison. Andi dito rin si Jose de Pilates. Ang lahat na may teorya sa pagbabago, dito tinitesting. Yes, dumadaan dito si Ingo. Dumadaan dito si Edel. Ako ay manakanakan. Isang obserbasyon ni Ingo. Dito nag-ahasa yung mga intelektual. Ang ibig sabihin ng intelektual nun yung mga academics na anti-academics, mga intelektual na anti-intellectual. 1970, inimbita ako ng PUP na mag-apply sa pagtuturo. 2 taon lang ang pagtuturo doon, dineklara ang martial law. Kaming mga taga-PUP ay idideklarang notoriously undesirable. Hindi ko maintindihan kung paano notorious na ay undesirable ba. Makakabawi kami pagdating ni Cory. Pero mahalagang balikan ang martial. Siguro ito yung magdi-define sa amin. Ang mga kapwa namin noon nag-umpisang manunulat. Yun nga, hinahangaan kong matatapang noon ang magiging enabler ng martial law. Laging sa panahon ng kagipitan ay gagawa din ng posisyon yung mga writer kamukha nung panahon ng Kastila, pananakop ng Kastila. Merong kakampi, merong tataya na nag-aabang kung sino yung mananalo sila. At meron din naman na maninindigan. Ito ang umpisa ng panahon namin tatlo. Hindi kami close. Iimbitahan ako ni Edel sa kanyang maraming booklots ng mga tula sa kung saang mga sulok sa faculty center. Si Ingo naman ay nagsusulat na rin na laging may dalang libro na inaalok. At inaabangan namin kung ano ang susunod niya isusulat sa Philippine graphics. Magkakaroon kami ng sarili-sarili naming definition sa pagsusulat. Si Edel Garcellano at sa kanyang Knife Edge. Si Ingo ay magbibigay kahulugan ng salitang praxeology. Ako, utos ng hari. At magtatakbo-takbo ka sa PUP ay mayroong vision si Dr. Dente. PCC pa ito. Mula sa pool, nung PCC pa lang hanggang maging PUP na, gusto niya lagi siya naliligid ng maraming writer. Na makikita mo rito yung writer makakaliwa, o meron ding parang naglalakad lang. Ang Institute for Social History siguro ang magiging unang tambayan ng mga manunulat. Hindi ito tambayan lang. Ito ay lugar din parang community. Nakikikain, kumisan nakikitulog, nakikikape, malimit, nakikiinom. Maraming talakayan At tulad ng dati si Edel, may lang. Hindi nagpapakita si Edel. Malaunan magiging kontrobersyal kaming tatlo. Hindi ko maintindihan. Sa aming tatlo, ako siguro yung pinakamabait. Si Ingo kasi philosopher. Ang philosopher lagi naghahanap ng makakagalitan. Lagi. Si Edel naman ay magiging pamunahing literary critic para siyang konsyensya ng lipunan ng kanyang panahon na lahat ng ayaw marinig ng kanyang kapwa manunulat ay sasabihin niya. Ako, suplado lang siguro na ayaw makipag-usap. Kakausapin ko lang kung ang tingin ko ay may potensyal na maging manunulat yung mga nagpapabasa ng akda sa akin. Ang irony, marami siyempre hindi matutuwa sa aming tatlo. Hindi namin sinasadya kung minsan babansagang kang loose cannon. Hanggang minsan nga nung sinusulat ko yung Armando, nagawa yung usapan sa aming tatlo. Ang kausap ko ay taga-packet pambansang komisyon sa edukasyon. Hindi namin alam na tatlo na meron pala kami papel na ginagampanan sa pagpapalawak ng panitikan ng bayan. Sabi nila, yung mga usaping ideological, philosophical, yung mga balahurang argumento, ang sasagot nun, si Ingo. Sa kritisismo naman, ang bahala doon, yung mga nagpapanggap na writer, mga opportunista writeran, yung mga ganon. Parang nakasay niya tayo o ang gumaganap ng si Edel. At yung epektibong propagandang pagmasa sa akin. Bakit ganon? Hindi naman kami siguro talagang organisado. Pero sabi nila, siguro daw para kami posporo. Pwede kami pag-umpisahan ng sulok. Kung kaya dapat pawalan ng laman yung posporo na yan. Sabi rin para kami pugita. May mga galamay. Nung matapos yung termino ni Dr. Prudente, parang tapos na rin yung aming mga karir sa PUP. Maraming anyo ang pandarahas. Nung nagpulong yung tatlong vice president, tinatanong nila kung sino kaya o sino ang susundan namin o susunod nga ba kami. Ako yung unang nagpaalam. Pupunta sana ako ng Ateneo pero naharang ako sa UP. Si Edel ay binigyan ng klase ng 7:30 ng umaga. Ang kasunod na klase ay 6:30 ng gabi. Yun yung sinasabi kong mga anyo ng pandarahas. Pwede rin naman siguro kung tatango kami na doon na lang kami sa PUP, wala si Dr. Prudente. Pwede naman din kaming gawing Exhibit A. Pwede rin sigurong gawing dekorasyon. Makakabalik lamang kami ng binabanggit ko sa ibang panahon sa kasalukuyan. Hindi konbinyente ang mga pinagagawa namin. Parang sumpa na habang buhay kaming kakayod para mabuhay. May papalakpak, may magagalit. At magsusulat pa rin ang mga taong piniling magsulat ng makabuluhan. Maaring nahihirapan, pero taas noong haharap sa kapwa. Yes, pinanindigan namin ang mga pinaniniwalaan namin kung kami mga angry young man pa lang. At namamaalam na ang henerasyon ng dekada 70 ng FQS. Pero may lilingunin. Maaring may mga pagkukulang pero walang pagsisisihan ni babawiin. Maaring may i-revise or i-rewrite. May mga daan na pwedeng tahakin ang mga susunod pa sa amin. Salamat sa mga kapwa-katuwang sa paghahawan. Salamat sa maraming kabataan noon na nagpatuloy. Salamat din sa mga hindi napagod at hindi tumigil. Salamat, Edel. At ano nga ang napala natin? Ano nga ulit, Edel, ang papel ng manunulat? Di ba, ang mambuko sa mga excesses, ilusyon at kaibangan ng mga gustong pumapil sa panitikan ng bayan. Nanliligalig ang panulat na inaalay sa bayan.
Magandang araw sa lahat. Ako si MJ Rafal. Isa sa mga tao na bumubuo ngayon sa Center for Creative Writing ng PUP. At unang-una, binabati ko ang lahat ng nagsikap sa kabila ng panahon natin ngayon na napakahirap gumalaw ay naitaguyod at nagkaroon pa rin ng ganitong programa para bigyan pugay, bigyan parangal ang isang katangi-tanging tao, guro, manunulat, kritiko na si Sir Edel, si Edel Garcellano. Si Edel ay sa amin sa CCW sa PUP. Isa sa kinikilala naming senior consultant advisor mula nang naitayo, nabuo ang Center for Creative Writing ng PUP noong 2012. But ito rin yung panahon na wali siyang bumalik sa PUP mula nang umalis rin siya rito ng matagal na panahon. Dahil ito rin yung panahon na sinikap ng PUP na muling mag-imbita ng mga guro, mga husay na guro na naging bahagi sa pagtataguyod ng intelektual na komunidad ng PUP, at hindi mawawala doon ang isang Edel Garcellano na isa sa mga susing tao na italaga sa mahalagang opisina ng Institute of Social History na pinamunuan noon ng alam ko isa sa mga kinikilala at isa sa mga iilang tao na kinikilala at dinadakila ni Edel, si Dr. Nemesio Prudente, na nag-imbita rin sa kanya na magturo sa PUP sa muling pag-upo nito bilang Pangulo ng PUP noong unang mga bahagi ng dekada 90. Doon nga nabuo yung Institute of Social History at nagkaroon din sila ng Journal of Ideas. Ayan, na pinamunuan nila ni Kaingo de Guzman, si Jun Cruz Reyes, at si Edel Garcellano. So, kapag binanggit natin ang isang Edel Garcellano sa PUP, hindi mawawala yung kanyang pagiging matalas, kritiko ng lahat ng kanyang nakikita at nababasa. Isa sa pinaka siguro may kilala mong kung ikaw ay mahina ang loob, pinaka negatibong tao na may kilala mo. Pero lahat yan ay bahagi lang talaga ng mas maliwanag na gustong itaguyod ni Ka Edel bilang isang guro. Wala na siya ngayon, lalo na sa panahong ito, pero laging nagpapatuloy ang kanyang nasimulang diwa at lagi natin siyang mababalikan sa kanyang mga isinulat at syempre sa mga alaala na nabuo kasama siya. At muli, pagpupugay kay Ka Edel, lagi nating balikan ang kanyang mga akda dahil doon siya napupuhay at doon niya ginugol ang kanyang kakayahan at kaalaman. So habang buhay natin siyang kapiling. Wala man siya, wala na siya sa kasalukuyan. Muli, maraming salamat sa lahat na nagtaguyod nito ng parangal na ito at mabuhay ang diwa ni Ka Edel. Magandang araw.
Now, we will hear a message from Bear Rivas, Sir Edel's colleague and former student at the Institute of Social History of PUP. His message will be read by a student and friend of Sir Edel from Creative Writing Center of PUP, Jayson Jimenez. Jayson?
Salamat, Sir Jomar. Babasahin ko itong mensahe ni Dr. Virgilio Rivas, dating direktor ng Institute of Social History at dating estudyante ni Ka Edel noong 90s. I was asked to give a tribute to Edel Garcellano, who was a personal hero to many, a great teacher and an important, if not the most important literary critic of our time. I did not know Edel personally. Truth be told, I don't feel comfortable being asked to give a tribute. I believe the privilege belongs to those whom he had personally influenced over time, over many years of shared memories and friendship that were too personal to let go. They are the ones who are in mourning right now. Our turn in this process of grieving is to protect the sole interest of their time and space to mourn, having at least shared with them a common knowledge of who Edel was to us. There is a radical humanism that this grieving process exhibits, of which we all partake in any way we can. But it's also a fait accompli that Edel was a public figure, however limited his public was. I believe I belong to that public, though certainly not with the fold of the mainstream progressive that has brought attention to his works. His unique style, his exemplary grasp of theory, and a kind of existential eagerness to confront power. I'm saying there's a kind of intersectional portrayal of Edel's works among his readers. That's the fate of any literary production, considering the partisanship of any written text across a differential spectrum of individual and group subjects that are overturned in the classes. But like it or lump, Edel is also part of a matrix of capital flows in which literature can function as a line of escape. But it's always blocked by the machinic perseverance of capital against any attempt to compose a new world, a new plane of consistency. Needless to say, his progressive writings constitute an errant causality in a dominant flow of capital. But this is not to demote his productions to the irremediable destiny of Kafkaesque reality from which there is no escape. Quite the contrary. Revolutions are measured according to how they incite capital to become more ingenious in its approach to freedom. That is how revolutions are won, to force the enemy to rationalize its own gospel of freedom. And at the exteriority of its own theory, the neoliberal enemy is caught in its own net. The enemy doesn't have a concept of freedom or autonomy independent of the overarching necessity of its desire to sacrifice freedom, even its own freedom, to the universal rule of containment, the sovereignty of capital. First, for this, we could hear Edel dismiss the enemy's gospel in his poem, Shipwreck Sailors. Only the gospel will allow a certain freedom to be laid squarely on the table and invoke what is nonsensical. This is how I approach Edel as an exceptional theorist of freedom. Having said that, I believe Edel's literary representation is only right to promote a certain privilege over its class enemy, the privilege of the oppressed to speak. It is in this sense that Edel's literary representation approaches the maxim of speaking truth to power, and that this truth will always be partisan. As he engaged Vladimir Nabokov's in the interminable recall, whose voice will tell the truth. Yun lamang po.
Thank you very much, Jayson. Next is Babeth Lolarga, a journalist and artist, and Sir Edel and Ma'am Chato's family friend. Closing this segment are messages from Jody Blanco, a professor at UC San Diego, and Bliss Cua Lim, a professor at UC Irvine.
I put a little lipstick, a little powder, because I know it is Edel's 74th birthday. Happy birthday, Edel. And I know where you are, because you came to me in a dream. It is such a consoling, comforting dream. I shared this with Chato and with Risa, and now I am sharing it with Lyra and a host of others, the others being those who admire, respect, and love you, Edel, because I assure you, and you must know by now, they are legion. In this dream, you brought Chato and the ladies who lunch, meaning Lynette Villariba, Chato, Esther Di Pasupil, Angge Goloy, Corito Llamas, and myself, back to your hometown in Nauhan, Mindoro. Binitbit mo kami. It was a homecoming of sorts. It was our first time, so we girls were excited. Chato and you were the host. You were, as usual, wearing shorts, white shorts, and striped t-shirt. But inside the house, I was sort of irritated that there were so many children, all boys in their swimming trunks, and excited to see Edel. And there was a large, huge window somewhere, no grills, no glass, no bars. It looked out to the compound, the part of the compound where there's no house. And there was a low fence, and beyond the low fence was the sea. All the boys were leaping through the windows, through the two windows, including Edel. And I was thinking in my thought, because I just had a knee surgery, no, even with my new knee, I don't think I can leap through that window. I don't think I can make it. So I'll just go to the kitchen and see what's cooking. In the kitchen, I saw lots of women, mga manang, and they were working over vats of pansit, yung ihahain sa amin, and there was a special fish dish. I'm not a Freudian or Jungian psychologist, but in this dream, I know you have had your own homecoming out there, not into the void, but into the eternity of God's grace. I hope this comforts the family at this time. I will not go into Edel the iconoclast, Edel the outsider, Edel the gadfly, because so much has been written about that already. I just would like to say, Edel, you are part of eternity. Good night. Happy birthday.
I don't know how good I am with this 5-minute format, but I just wanted to say hello. My name is John Blanco. Jody is the name a lot of people know me as. And I am sending this along as my contribution to Edel's memory, and also to convey my condolences to the immediate family, Chato, Risa, and Lyra. I have this vivid memory of Risa and Lyra following close behind Edel at the end of the day. Lyra's then boyfriend as well. They're both in the art school, and they were so cool. I'm sure that they're even cooler now, but they're so cool. But even back then, I shared an office with Edel back in the early '90s. So my memories and the most intense period of my relationship with Edel was, I guess, almost 30 years ago. Tonchi, of course, later on became the spokesperson for the teachers union, and now he is a congressman, or has been a congressman for several years. But there was a small group of us that really gravitated around Edel in those years. And a senior professor used to call us the Brat Pack because she thought that we were all spoiled brats. But I think that a part of it was probably some resentment that we did not want to do the things that other younger faculty used to have to do for older faculty, like preparing their coffee and writing notes to meetings and reporting to them when they couldn't show up. But Edel became kind of our de facto sort of leader, and he was somebody that we depended on for a lot. Why that was, I guess, partly because he was a little bit older, partly because for someone who was such a public, sort of an outspoken kind of defender of young people, students, young instructors, our interests, our concerns. He was also relatively unprotected in the whole kind of hierarchy and structure of UP. He was a lecturer there for many years. He didn't have job security from year to year. But he was always out there speaking out for us, defending us, giving us an opportunity to have our say. And I think that one of the things that really drew us and many younger people to Edel was that he really had an understanding of that period of time, which was otherwise, I think, inchoate and not yet defined. I mean, this is the early 90s, several years after the end of martial law, and when people were beginning to realize that a lot of things had not changed, that a lot of the struggles and challenges that the Philippines faced, instead of being met head on, were met with new forms of collusion, compromise, and corruption, which I think was very disappointing and very disenchanting to that early post-martial law generation. And I think Edel understood that. I think that he understood that on the one hand, the older generation had really failed to provide a kind of a blueprint for how to forge ahead in the emergence of the Philippines from this 14, 15-year sleep that was martial law. And I think he got that, and I think that he encouraged people to speak out about that. And I think that, the way that he did it was very different from the way that the members of the kind of older left, organized left, did it. I think that he was a very independent thinker, and that he was always very reluctant to sort of be put in a box. And there was something about that vibe, something about that originality that really resonated, I think, with my generation and my peers. And so if there's, one thing that I think, he really gave us was the courage and also the sort of the urgency to try to develop new ways of talking about the issues and the challenges and the problems faced by our generation in the Philippines and also elsewhere. And I think that he really gave us that sort of space by allowing us to be part of this kind of new conversation, a new conversation in which the older sort of or senior people were not dictating the terms of the conversation, but were just riffing off of what people were saying and thinking and feeling. And Edel obviously wasn't the only one to be doing this. There were a lot of people at UP Diliman who were part of that kind of cultural ferment, and it was a cultural ferment, I think, that really had a lasting influence or inspiration on succeeding generations. I think that without that culture of UP in the early 90s, there wouldn't have been the Eraserheads, there wouldn't have been the music scene of RJ Bistro and Club Dread and May Ricks. I don't think there would have been the theater of and cinema of Oreas Solito, UP Tropa, so many of these kind of people coming out of UP, actors, directors, artists, Paul Morales, all of them kind of belonging to that period. And I think one of the things that I am most grateful to Edel for is giving people that space to think independently, to use their own reason, to use their own knowledge, and to be to have the courage to really be part of a bigger conversation, whether you're coming at that from, French philosophy or kind of post-Marxist or post-colonial theory, or you were coming at it just as a young poet who had some words on a page and wanted the world to hear it. And he was supportive of that, very encouraging. I don't think that he really understood or ever realized the extent of his influence and participation in that particular period, but it is a kind of a leadership and also an agency that he provided, for which I am and always will be grateful. So once again, to the immediate family of Edel's, Chato and Risa and Lira, I am sorry, I regret not being able to mourn with you in person, but I'm sending you my love and my regrets. And I hope that we can keep the memory of Edel's contribution to us, his friends and his community, but also in a larger sense to the emergence of a new culture that he was a big part of. I hope that we can keep the memory of that alive. And for those things, I will always be thankful.
I'm Bliss Lim. Edel was a mentor so formative and so formidable that I can barely describe the impact he had on my thinking, my politics, my poetry, despite the fact that I never once took a class with him. In Sons of Nauhan, Edel describes his own poetry as irascible, and I think in Edel's writing, we do see poetry as theory, poetry as essay, poetry as the angry knife edge that punctures propaganda. Edel's poetic voice, like his voice as my old friend and most important mentor, is often that of a radical, interruptive heckler, a kind of critical, creative noise that punctures or disrupts the signal of political platitude. There's so much humor and anger and wit in Edel's writing and his conversation that it makes us laugh, even as we register the severity of the critique. This is the Edel of my memories, whom I first met 30 years ago as a young instructor at the English department of UP Diliman. I realized that I'm now older than Edel was in those years. I remember Edel would always chuckle while delivering some signature political critique, because he was as critical as he was compassionate, incisive but also expansively forgiving, I think. Nakakatawa siyang kausap, nakakatuwa siyang pakinggan, ang talim ng pagbatikos pero ang lawak din ng pag-unawa. When my dad passed away in 2007, Edel sent me a beautiful poem. So I think of this birthday tribute as my humble way of closing that circle of solace and love. Since I heard about his passing, I've had his 1993 book, Una Furtiva Lagrima, by my side. I took this cover photo with his faculty center desk full of papers and Lyra's bicycle, I think, on top of everything. That was Edel's desk in room FC 1027, and Carol Howe's recent tribute to Edel on the Ikanga blog vividly evokes the years when I worked with him in DECL from 1990 to 1993, and that office, Edel's office, where we all clustered around him. His poems are richly peopled with workers, students, artists, priests, insomniacs, soldiers, activists, friends, and lovers. And in a way, Edel's office in the early 90s was a microcosm as well. Thinking back, I'm struck by the characters he drew towards him, the worlds that intersected there. I saw Edel now and then in ensuing decades, but not nearly enough. He was absolutely original and so maverick that I loved having my students do class interviews with him, since I knew his very existence was a bracing antidote against all the cliches they were going to college supposedly to unlearn. When I wrote my book Poems from Two Places, I think I must have written some poems with him as a reader in mind. When Carol wrote about Edel being a consummate listener, I recall that as a young poet, I always felt that Edel might be listening. And now, as a teacher, I aspire to listen like him. I wish I had a photograph of him crisply and intently listening, since the way he listened had a way of sort of putting the speaker on notice, gently but humorously. Instead, I have another photo portrait of Edel from those years that encapsulates the way I still see him in my mind. Leonine and brave, a person and an intellectual unlike any other. For generations of students privileged enough to have been reared under his tutelage, Edel Garcellano will always be the most heroic of anti-heroes. We miss you, Edel. Happy birthday.
You're watching First Person Plural, a tribute in remembrance of Edel Garcellano. In this second segment, we're going to hear a few words from Heidi Abad, a colleague of Edel at the English department. Then we will hear messages from Edel's students who became also his friends, Jonjie Roux, Luisa Gomez-Reyes, Bugsy Nolasco, and Jen Mendoza. Next, our critic, Katrina Stuart Santiago, and former Dean of College of Mass Communication, Rolando Tolentino.
How does one write about a person whose words you have to carefully weigh? Is he teasing? Is he being sarcastic? Is he serious, as in the literal sense? In Edel's case, sometimes it's all three combined. Most of the kape-kape dates I've had with Edel were with two of my other BFFs in the DECL, Lelaine and Maricar. Since we rarely saw him during the regular primetime teaching days and hours in the department, we made it a point to text him sometime around this year when he celebrates his birthday. Our trio must have amused him so, because he often showed up to meet us, either at the Vargas Museum Cafe or in Chocolate Kiss. Right away, we would jokingly drop a disclaimer that since we haven't read his works, we'd like to keep the conversation light and positive, usually of the kumustahan type, and catching up on our latest projects, be they conferences attended, stories published, and in our case, how our babies have grown. The other times with Edel are longish conversations in my FC office, more serious, more reflective. He'd ask about my parents and how they're coping with aging and illness. While updating him on the health of my parents, I'd half suspect that he was thinking of his own. He'd inquire about what people in the department are doing. Again, I would detect a hint of hurt at how his place in the academe is appreciated more by his students than by colleagues. He'd talk about how one's life and whatever achievements on earth will eventually be lost and forgotten. At that point, I would correct him and say that while it may happen to some, and not all, the point is that the person still mattered to some others, and that whatever work was done is an accomplishment by itself. There were lighter moments too. While still an instructor and single young lady in the department, I was often teased by Edel whenever he passes by my half-open door. "Oh, nasa na yung manliligaw?" he'd say, referring to a student of my roommate who'd often sit on the chair by the door to wait for his teacher. I'd laugh it off and exclaim, "Ikaw talaga," since there was no truth to it anyway. Little did I know that 2 years hence, what I call Edel's prophecy came true. And a handful of years after, we got married. Edel was invited to the wedding. He didn't come. 2 tweetums for him, maybe. But Serge and I have him to thank for the idea of us. You see, Edel, we will never forget you and what you have accomplished for us, at least. Thank you, dear friend. It was an honor to be in your list of friends. Rest in God's peace.
It's a little bit tricky to talk about a controversial genius in 3 minutes. So instead of describing his brilliance or his unique characteristics, which I'm sure the others will be doing, I'm going to focus on some memories that surfaced when I was trying to figure out what to put in this video. So of course, the very first one is how close he was to lingua franca. He would always sit at our tambayan, join our conversations, whether it was about academics or personal life, even love life. He would listen to us. He was not just a mentor, but also a friend. We loved him, but I think he loved us too. There was one time when we invited him to join us in an inuman session at Sarah's, and pinagbigyan niya kami. He joined us even if he doesn't drink, because I think he knew how thrilled we were to be in a different context, but discussing the same things with him. And so I can never forget that time that we drank with Sir Edel Garcellano at Sarah's. Another one is, I think it was mid-semester, and it was CL 151. And again, Sir was trying to engage us in a certain level of discussion, but no one was at par with his expectations, I think. So in utter exasperation, he said, just read What is Literature by Terry Eagleton and you're good to go with this class. Sir, nagbasa po kami. We know nothing is apolitical. Another memory is, I know that most of us in Lingua Franca would enroll in his classes all the time. Whatever he was teaching, we would be there to enlist in his classes. But semester after semester, his classes dwindled. But lo and behold, when Richard Rorty came to the UP Diliman campus, Sir was there. at the panel. I guess they needed his brilliance in those discussions. 2 minutes already, how fast? Okay, the last memory is my father and Edel Garcellano have the same age, and they moved in the UP Diliman campus around the same time. So they have a lot of common friends. And one time when my dad picked me up at the Tambayan, of course, Sir Garcellano was there. So I introduced them to one another. And when my dad was going through his roster of friends and saying, "Oh yeah, you know X," Sir Garcellano would say, "But he was a prostitute." And my dad would just laugh. And then my dad would go to the next name, X, do you know him? And then Sir Edel would say again, "He was a prostitute." But my dad did not take offense, because I think he knew what Sir Edel meant. And that's what I remember of Sir Edel, that he told the truth, that he did not mince his words, that he looked down on compromises. And I think that's how he lived his life. And for that, we will always adore and love this man who inspired us, who changed our lives. Sir Edel Garcellano, maraming salamat po.
Hi, I'm Luisa Gomez, a former student of Sir Edel Garcellano in UP. Actually, my husband and I were both students of Sir Garcellano. I've always wanted to see Sir Garcellano after graduation, but I never really had the courage to. Maybe he'd laugh if I told him that I married a former student of his and we now have a son together. Maybe he'd ask me why we still pursue the career in the academy even if he repeatedly told us not to. And maybe he'd also laugh at the idea that I would occasionally ask some of my students to report about his poems. And maybe the grief that we all feel about his passing is immense because some of us miss the opportunity to express our gratitude to Sir personally. Maybe I would never know, but I do know that he was a brilliant and generous teacher. He loved teaching. He would occasionally humble brag about his daughters before, back when I took classes with him, and he really loved his cats, and the scope of his influence is undeniably immeasurable. That's all, and thank you, Sir Edel. Our sincerest condolences to the family left behind by Sir. Thank you.
First, on behalf of my family, our deepest condolences to the family of Edel Garcellano, Ma'am Chato, Liana, and Lyra. Sir Edel had spoken about his family in loving terms, such that when I got to meet Ma'am Chato in person, it was at the wake of my grandfather. I felt a sudden urge to hold her hand and to embrace her. I partially credit Sir Edel for that outburst. Flowers come to mind as we honor Edel Garcellano, or Sir Edel to many of us. He held up in class one time a well-known mouse slogan. "Let 100 flowers bloom," he declared, and was quick to add, "Flowers take note, not weeds." I treasure this lesson from him. Sir Edel, a wildflower, was tough and beautiful at once. UP at times felt like a hotbed of intellectual downsizing and envious competition. Sir Edel, thankfully, was a breath of fresh air. He privileged rigor over academic good sense. To activists and students, he offered coffee, food, and the listening ear. Afternoon sessions with him at Vargas or Chocolate Kiss were occasions for thinking, for comforting, and for laughing. lots and lots of laughing. Sir Edel's wit is not only outstanding, it beggars belief. In one stunning example from his poetry book, Vanishing History in Other Poems, he brings together in a single poem seemingly disparate elements, from haute couture and pandesal to Algerian kasbah and Manila slums, as a way of mapping a complex network of political savagery that endures across historical times, bodies, and spaces. I've heard Sir Edel refer to himself as saling pusa in the academe. His interventions, however, were far from marginal. He bravely took on central issues with the force of a rip current and went beyond facile sentimentalism. His writings about class struggle, for example, immanently project a society where peasants and workers are not destituted and killed. His readers encounter bleakness on page that we are apt to think how to proceed ethically off page. To end, I will draw attention to the first and the last work uploaded on Sir Edel's website, both of which speak of dead fathers. What's striking in both instances is how they each deal with finitude by refusing the absolute erasure of death. The last poem, titled Dark Side of History, involves a son searching for the body of his murdered father. By comparison, in the first work, a set of poems titled Poems for My Father and Others, a confrontation with death brings forth, and I quote, "The rite of love repeated, hour on the hour." Sir Edel, you leave us with so much of your surplus life, along with the inestimable loss that we immediately feel.
Hi, ako po si Jen Mendoza, isang dating full-time trade union activist na kumilos sa hanay ng mga kawani ng gobyerno at maralitang tagalungsod. Isa rin po ako sa mga pinalad na maging estudyante ni Sir Edel Garcellano sa UP Diliman. Gusto ko pong magpasalamat sa mga organizer ng First Person Plural, Remembering Edel Garcellano, sa pagbibigay ng pagkakataon para magbahagi ng mga alaala natin kay Sir Edel. Marami po sa atin na naging estudyante ni Sir Edel, yung mga alaala natin sa kanya umikot sa loob ng Diliman, kung saan siya nagturo ng matagal na panahon. Pero para sa akin, ang pinakamahalagang leksyon na natutunan ko kay Sir Edel, nakuha ko siya, wala na ako sa loob ng paaralan. Nakuha ko siya nung mga panahong nagsisimula pa lang ako bilang batang aktivista na kumikilos ng buong panahon sa hanay ng mga kawani ng pamahalaan. Nung mga panahon na yun, madalas kaming magkita ni Sir Edel. Halos linggo-linggo, nagte-text siya para magpa-encode ng mga tula niya na i-upload dun sa blog niya. Sa tuwing magte-text si Sir Edel, kinakabahan na ako. Kasi alam ko, pag nakita kami, gigisahin niya na naman ako dun sa mga position paper, mga kampanya, mga press releases na nilalabas namin sa Union. Sa kabila ng mga malatisis defense na session na yun, naging mahalagang oportunidad yun sa akin para matuto kung paanong depensahan yung mga posisyon ko bilang isang batang aktivista. Tinuro sa akin ni Sir Edel na kung gusto mo talagang maging aktivista, gusto mong maging revolusyonaryo, dapat matalino ka. Kung hindi mo kayang depensahan yung posisyon mo at hindi mo kayang ipaliwanag ng malinaw na maiintindihan ng masa yung mga isinusulong mo, wala kang karapatang tawagin yung sarili mo na isang aktivista. Sa kabila ng mga ganong klaseng panggigisa, sa tuwing nagkikita kami, lagi rin naman akong pinapakain ni Sir Edel. No? Pagkatapos ng isang encoding session, nagyayaya siyang kumain sa isang maliit na fast food restaurant. Lagi niya akong sinasabihan na kumain ng marami, mag-take out, dahil alam niya naman daw na wala akong kinikita sa trabaho ko bilang aktivista. Lagi niya rin akong sinasabihan na mag-isip daw ako, iwanan ko na daw yung trabaho ko bilang aktivista kasi napakahirap daw mahalin ng bayan. Minsan daw, ikamamatay mo na, hindi ka pa minamahal pabalik. May pagkakataon na biniro ko siya, sabi ko sa kanya, bakit ikaw sir, di ba minahal mo rin naman ng bayan? Tinawanan niya ako, no? Sabi niya, kaya nga raw niya ako pinagsasabihan para wag daw akong tumulad sa kanya. Bago kami maghiwalay, lagi niyang sinasabi na mag-ingat, magsabi kung may kailangan, at pagbutihin yung paggampan dun sa gawain. Sa ganung paraan, nakita ko yung lubos na pagsuporta ni Sir Edel. Hindi lang sa akin, kundi sa lahat ng mga batang aktivista na tinuruan niya kung ano ba talaga yung ibig sabihin ng paglilingkod sa sambayanan. Paano mo dinudugtong yung teorya na natutunan mo doon sa realidad na nakikita mo sa mga maralitang komunidad, sa mga pabrika, sa loob ng mga kawanihan at opisina. Nung huling nakita kami ni Sir Edel, hindi na ako full-time activist. Tatrabaho na ako sa isang international NGO. Nakasabay ko siya sa jeep. Kinumusta niya ako, niyaya niya akong magkape. Sabi niya, dalawin ko raw siya sa bahay kasi marami na raw siyang ipapatype na tula. Nangako ako sa kanya noon na dadalawin ko siya, pero hindi ko na nagawa yun. Hanggang ngayon, pinagsisisihan ko kung bakit hindi ko nakuha yung offer na yun ni Sir Edel para sa coffee. Kilala ng marami si Sir Edel bilang isang mabangis na kritiko, isang mahusay na literary theorist, isang manunulat. Sabi nga nila, isang hellraiser na nagturo sa mga henerasyon ng UP students kung paano maging kritikal. Pero para sa akin, higit pa doon, isang mabuting kaibigan si Sir Edel. Lagi kaming pinapakain, lagi kaming nililibre ng kape, lagi kaming sinasabihang mag-ingat at magsuri. Para sa pamilya ni Sir Edel, nakikiramay po ako sa pagkawala ni Sir Edel at maraming salamat sa lahat ng naitulong niya po sa akin bilang estudyante at bilang aktivista. Lagi kong sinasabi na tinawid niya ako bilang naghihingalong aktivista. Hindi lang sa pagpapakain, kung hindi sa pagtuturo kung ano ba talaga yung ibig sabihin ng paglilingkod sa sambayanan. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat.
It is uncomfortable to say the least that I have been made part of this list of people doing tributes for Sir Edel tonight. I cannot lay claim to have known him personally, nor to have had long conversations with him about his work or mine, or about life in general. But I said yes because his death has left a gaping hole that even I am surprised by. I said yes because soon after Sir Edel died, my college friend Raya messaged me and said she'd wait for this tribute, that I must write it for both of us. I said yes because in the midst of this crisis that we are unfortunate enough to experience with the most incompetent and violent of governments, we are also in the throes of a propaganda war like no other, even as we can only battle with our own demons and emotional turmoil. And for some reason, Sir Edel's is one of many voices that resonate for me in times like this one. But unlike many tributes, this thing I'm fashioning will not have fond memories or funny anecdotes. Neither will it wax romantic about Sir Edel's value to our intellectual landscape or his influence on the younger generation of activists and writers. I am in no position to do that. What I can do instead is tell a story. In 1997, two girls entered a class of mostly comparative literature majors. It was an emergent literature classroom where they expected some hand-holding. It was the first semester of major subjects, and that comes with the standard nerves and excitement. Of course, hand-holding is not something you'll get in an Edel Garcellano classroom. At least if what that means to you is to be eased gently into a syllabus of authors you've never heard of, or be given long drawn-out lectures that allow you your delusions of discovery and learning. In lieu of that, and on any day, this teacher was either a punch in the gut or an ice-cold bucket of water over the head. The two girls braced themselves for class, even as they made sure to buy all the books in that syllabus and read as voraciously as they were trained to. Ruth Fermese's Guerra, Alice Guillermo's Mao Zedong Thought Lives, Antonio Gramsci's Prison Notebooks, plus a bunch of other books and readings and theorists that they didn't have the headspace or maturity for at that point. But it barely mattered in that classroom, because never were they prepared for the questions that came, and half the time it seemed like there were no real answers to the teacher's questions. That semester, the teacher had a thing about names. He'd hear a student's last name, ask about where her parents are from, what they do for a living. Few were spared the quick, easy conclusions about the class character of the family, and therefore the students. Ah, mga absentee landlord kayo. Ayan, yung mga aktivista dati tapos nag-born again. Naku, yung mga middle class who work so hard for a pittance. Once or twice, he talked about students' families in relation to how many maids they had in their homes and what that means. Always, he'd conclude, names are such a burden, ano? Your names are such a burden. Kawawa naman kayo. All this said with a chuckle or a grin, like an inside joke you were all privy to, but of course the two girls weren't in on that joke just yet. Often it would be a diatribe against the state of affairs in the university, the kinds of students it expects, the stuff they were being made to read, the fact that as this bunch of literature majors sat in that classroom for a little less than an hour twice a week, changes were afoot in the university. There was a commercialization plan that was being sold to the community, and with no real massive response to it, plus the oft-mentioned apathy of the studentry, it was bound to happen. The teacher shrugged. Ganyan talaga. What can we expect from you kids? And then that grin. In that classroom, those two girls barely spoke up unless spoken to. They were in over their heads with the readings, out of their depth with the teacher's discussions. But halfway through that semester, what became clear to them was this path, which led from the Edel Garcellano classroom to the League of Filipino Students Tambayan. Both of them would get involved in the student movement then, one braver than the other and signing up as member, the other refusing the commitment. Regardless, for at least that semester, they learned together very quickly about the state of the nation, the historical injustices that remain in the present, the terrible future we were looking at if we didn't act on actual change. They became involved in what turned out to be a large and united student protest against the university's commercialization plan. With two others from that class, they formed the Cadrebels, which only those with a lot of free time, a ton of gay lingo, and a camaraderie born of the same books and pop culture references would be able to do. They didn't do much except be friends, laugh, and make up songs, which of course meant having one song that was called Emergent Lit, sung to the tune of Foolish Heart, in retrospect a rundown of all that was learned in that Edel Garcellano classroom. A few times that semester, the two girls thought of telling their teacher what they had done, walking into activism that way as a reaction to what they had learned in his classroom. They'd wait for him by the door, thinking this bit of information was something the teacher needed to know. But they hesitated. There was a very big chance he would laugh at them and ask, "Why did you do that?" Or an even bigger chance that he would throw them a rhetorical question that demanded an answer. "So now do you feel any less apathetic?" And then a grin. They ended up not telling him anything, maybe too so as not to risk the possibility of disappointing him, maybe because he shouldn't have to take responsibility for the actions of his students given what they learn or unlearn in his classroom. Soon enough, those two girls would drift apart, one committing to activism while the other settling for a critical distance, one whose life is changed completely by the time in the emergent literature classroom, and another whose life would unravel in more expected ways. One doing the path less traveled, and another going on that path made available to her by her class origins. The teacher was correct after all, at least about one of them. I am, of course, the latter, as Raya is the former. And while I write this for both of us, I do think that Raya's stories is hers to tell. Mine is to be told here only insofar as this large gaping hole has existed since Sir Edel's death. A surprise because the time I spent with him was only in that classroom in 1997, and I don't have a lot of reliable memories to tell. And yet, while it seems so little, it also seems enough. Because like Raya, though without the daring to say that Sir Edel's classroom changed my life, it has in fact been an integral part of how I've navigated the spaces I've moved in since. Of how one might read a room and know right away who holds the power and how. Is it in terms of language or the tenor of a voice, all of which is bound to class or the lack of it? Of how one might deal with the powers that be, from the people in Malacanang to the institutions one has no choice but to deal with. How one might compromise, but even more so, how one must not. Of how to draw that line, the correct one, the most important one, which isn't so much violent as it is productive. And how sticking to that line need not mean being rabid or rigid, as it does mean being creative. How do we navigate the either or, the black and white, when the goal is to bring the people to our side without it being too obvious, without shoving it down their throats? How might we play this game and win it without losing sight of where we want to go, why it is we play this game at all? Sir Edel played this game well, and it is that playfulness, intellectual energy, and creativity that one can only aspire for, as it is what informs what we might do right here, right now. When the world is changing as we speak, when thousands are dying and thousands more are going hungry, when we grasp at straws and rise to the occasion equally, when we muscle our way through our own nervous breakdowns, because we know, I know, that even refusing to function is an embarrassing privilege to exercise at a time like this one. As a young girl in that classroom, it seemed to me like Sir Edel was uncompromising and unyielding, and these weren't positive traits at all. But growing into my adulthood as a writer and critic has made me realize that these are not bad things after all. Because knowing to draw that line clearly and immovably, and then deciding to be on the right side of it is the only way to live. He lived it in that classroom 23 years ago, pushing those two girls in the direction they needed to go, whether he meant to or not. That this is where I'm at, saying thank you to him alongside many others who can lay claim to his friendship and mentorship more than I ever could, is a testament to his teaching. Sometimes, the least likely allies are the ones who keep a critical distance, the ones who maintain independence, the ones who have the creativity for humor, underhanded praise, dry wit, and sarcasm, the ones who grin and chuckle to get you on his side. Sometimes, that could be you.
Sa mga nakakakilala kay Edel, wala namang gulat at sindak na ito ay yumao. Lahat naman tayo ay natuto na sa mga taon ng schooling kay Edel. Walang sagrado, walang sinasanto, lahat ay tinitigbak, lahat ay may ideological gap. Kaawa-awang ang napuntiryang ideological target ng panulat ni Edel. Heto sila, basang-basa sa ulan, walang masisilungan, walang malalapitan. Habang ako ay tumatanda na rin sa kalintulad ng tinahak ni Edel, nare-realize ako na wala rin palang pinagkaiba ang mga progresibong kritiko, scholar at manunulat kay Edel. May Bichesa, Maldita Factor, o Belia Flores o Edel Garcellano tayong lahat. Nagsisimula ang lahat na nangangahas at maliban sa kahenerasyon ng manunulat, lahat ay nagsisimula sa patunahe sa kritisismo at panulat. Panghihiram ng libro, pagkukunan ng reading list, pagiging research assistant o managing editor, writer sa mga proyekto, estudyante na nakakatandang scholar. At ang nakakatandang scholar, mulat man o hindi, pero sa kaso ni Edel parang mulat parati, na semplangin agad ang sino naman nangangahas. First at continuing line ng filter, defense at screening si Edel. Nang buuin namin ng Katha, ang grupo ng kabataang kwentista noong 1980s, sumubaybay si Edel sa aming mga workshops at nagkaroon kami ng maling kumpiyansang kunin itong kritiko ng aming unang antolohiya sa book launch sa second floor ng Faculty Center. Napatitig na lamang kami ng isa't isang kasapi ng Katha kung bakit nag-imbita ng Negatron sa gabi ng paglulunsad ng unang libro matapos ng mga ilang buwang workshops at usapan kasama ang mga establishmentong writers at progresibong manunulat at kritiko. Hindi ko lubos na maalala ang sinabi ni Edel. Alam kong masama dahil nakataas ito ng tono nangangaral sa amin at nanlilisik ang mga mata. Para nangayatan nagdadabog pa habang binibigas ang kanyang tirada sa antolohiya ng kwento at nag-walkout ito matapos. Heto kami basang-basa sa ulan, walang masisilungan, walang malalapitan. Nag-inuman na lamang kami sa hindi ko maalalang lugar at ang tirada ni Edel ang tumahi ng gabi. Pero hindi kami nagpatalo. Nagpursige kami sa workshops at konversasyon sa mga manunulat pati sa pag-aaral ng teoryang papanitikan at national situationers. At hanggang 1990s ay patuloy na lumalabas ang mga antolohiya, maging ang mga individual mga libro ng mga kasapi ng kata. Ang moral lesson ang mismo umuunlad na praksis ang patunay sa pagiging seryoso at determinado sa tinahak na lugar sa panulat, na hindi ito gitnang uring fancy, claim to fame, traditional rite of passage, institutional validation, o pagpapatuloy ng mga gawin ng Diyos-Diyosan at iba pang kinamumuhian ni Edel. Dumaan ang mga dekada at malamang dahil sa pag-edad at sa mga pinili ring concession sa buhay at profesyon, nagmelo kundi man lalong bumuti ang edad at kondisyon ng posibilidad sa panulat kay Edel. Naalala ko si Edel na nasa labas ng FC, tumatanaw sa aming nagmamarcha sa Oval, nagchat-chan kami, inaaya siyang lumahok sa pagkilos at ako physical siyang kinakaray para isama sa mob. Pero tumanggi siya, may kung anong dahilan na hindi ko na naman maalala. Matapos ay matatagpuan namin ang kanyang iniisip nang lumabas ang tulang Dry Run, a poem for the fans of the Rolling Stone, Sarah, Camille, Lala, Kat, Pot, Choi, Michael and Omeng noong 2006, na kanyang nilay sa sandaling mangha siya sa mga kabataang pudpod ng enerhiya at rock and roll at siya bilang pantas na saksi sa sandali ng ordinaryong usad na ekstraordinaryong kasaysayan. Realisado na ng persona ang kanyang limitasyon, ang kanyang kontradiksyon, ang kanyang fasinasyon sa susunod na henerasyon. Malupit siya sa mga naunat na nasundang henerasyon ng kritiko at scholar dahil malupit si Edel sa kanyang sarili. Naunawaan niya ang kanyang limitasyon, kontradiksyon, at ang kailangang umasa sa susunod na henerasyon. Siya na nakakakita ng ekstraordinaryong latay at kalinga ng makauring kasaysayan, siya na kumakalinga at tumagupit sa ilang henerasyon ng kritiko at scholar, marami ay nangalaglag na kundi man na mayagpag na dahil sa kanyang tough love. Siya na patuloy na nakabang, nakamasid, nagtatala, naguhusga sa iba't ibang yugto ng mga kritiko at scholar na kanyang kinalinga at hinagupit. Siya na pinakamatalas ang punyal sa paghimay ng mga akda at personalidad ay wala na. Sa CP ng unang saknong sa huling tula sa website ni Edel, Ars Moriendi or The Art of Dying, sinabi niya, "How do you read the memory tab of a loved one? Is delirium the encrypted signals of the soul?" That morning, the caregiver was telling him his old man was mumbling the name of his mother who had passed a century ago. His sleep was shattered by a phone call from the hospital, but he wasn't surprised at all. Neuro research reports the dying make real the persona deeply buried in his unconscious. He was again an abandoned child, pining for his mother at the moment of his final departure. Did he see the boatman fetching his pitiful soul at the mouth of the Acheron, the immortal grimly rowing to the other side, the water eddying in a perpetual sigh? Wala na si Edel pero nandito pa rin si Edel. Bahagi siya ng continuum ng progresibong kaisipan sa bansa, ng intelektual na tradisyong kanyang nilabanan at binago, ng pambansang demokratikong revolusyon kanyang dakilang panuntunan ng kritisismo, ng mga pamilya, kasama at kaibigan, ng mga kapwa kritiko, scholar at guro, na sa kanyang paglisan ay paglaya rin sa kanya at sa kanyang mga ideya at sinulat, na naririto tayo ngayon sa ating turong, sa ating watch para maging mapagbantay sa mga katiwalian sa panitikan at lipunan, sa mga salita at sa mundo, sa pagbibigay kalinga at latay sa kahanay at susunod na mga henerasyon sa atin. Para kay Edel, patuloy tayo magsulat, makibaka, huwag matakot.
Finally, we have now Sarah Raymundo, a dear friend and colleague of Sir Edel, who's going to share with us her message of tribute. Sarah?
Hi, Jomar. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. I would like to extend my sincere condolences to Edel's family and to his friends. I prepared a 5-minute presentation. But before reading that, I would like to share with you two of the most poignant memories I have of Edel. One was shared with me by my best friend, one of Edel's closest friends as well, Lala, while we were talking about Edel when we found out he was gone. So she reminded me about those days when we would be weirded out by Edel's penchant for lotto. Tumataya siya sa lotto, pumipila siya, and for some weird reason, nanalo siya. I think he won maybe 3 times. And tumataya siya dun sa mga tigpa 500 na bet. Ganyan. And each time, pag mananalo siya, magte-text siya. Tapos mag-iaya siya kasi maglilibre na siya sa chocolate kiss. Kasi on ordinary days, doon lang kami sa Katag. And so Lala was telling me, really, Edel practically gave us everything, even the few hundreds that, he would win from betting on the lotto, which was very quaint about that memory. It was one of the most generous people I've ever known. Second is Edel was really a great networker, a great organizer. He gathers people together. He loves to do that. And I remember one time, si Neferti at saka si John, I believe who are here, they were in Manila, and Edel was telling me, we should, may plano na siya. Ganitong araw, magkikita-kita tayo, si Neferti, si John, nandiyan sila, etc., etc. And I told him, well, let me see, kasi parang meron akong schedule. Tapos sinimulan na niya yung kanyang tirada. Sabi niya, yung mga tao dito sa Pilipinas, lalo na dito sa UP, akala siguro nila kapag nasa Amerika ka, maganda yung buhay mo. Marami silang sinasabing gano'n, etc., etc. In the end, it was, I suppose his message was, we need to see Neferti because, she's a friend, and it's not like she's having the time of her life in the US. Lagi niyan sinasabi, mahirap din ang buhay doon, and so on and so forth. And of course, I just ended up saying, yeah, let's go see each other. So that's how Edel was to us, his friends. He really loved to bring us together, and he really tried to make each one of us appreciate each other. I don't think without Edel, I would have not been friends with some of my best friends now, like Twinkle, Lala, Nef, John, and many more. So I wrote this short piece, some of which I have already shared during the Edel Garcellano conference. It's just a few notes on Edel's criticism and rereading and partisanship. I begin with the quote from him. To define is to limit, and to limit is to contain. Garcellano clarifies that the academe's reproduction and reaffirmation of the liberal mantra through the taglines marketplace of ideas and bastion of liberal thought is in fact already a very precise position taking of the class struggle and its repositioning on a global scale. Neoliberal ideology marks the class struggle as a thing of the past, as we are in the era of post-politics. No more class struggle, no more revolution. There is nothing to redistribute at a time when productivity is at its highest in the whole history of capitalism. Class struggle is raging in the periphery, in the semi-colonies. That people are massively incarcerated, abused, brutalized by the police, rendered homeless with no access to health care and proper nutrition is also a sign of class struggle, especially considering how the 1% thrives precisely because of all that human misery. Yet class struggle is marginalized in various ways, and from Edel's criticism and rereading, it is marginalized even in its supposedly radical forms. From Edel, we learned that the free play of political persuasions, the marketplace of ideas as a definition of academic freedom, is in fact a containment of academic freedom. It already entails the embrace of the neoliberal politics of post-politics, or the abdication of any sympathy for the national democratic revolution that once upon a time took root in the university. The marketplace of ideas, as a code word for academic freedom, is itself a prescription to marginalize the most radical discourse in the celebration of the free play of discourses. But what is most radical anyway? Let me quote Edel. Surely, and this is Edel, the NDF, an umbrella organization that does not necessarily represent all the opposition forces in the country, it only banners the organized party along Marxist principles, has not proclaimed the options for the CPP's future, and also their future, which to my mind is already secure given the strange coincidence that their critique of the left has become virtually beautiful music to the military comprador state. A number, in fact, are flourishing in the network of state interstices and non-government offices whose presence extend the very powers of the state to areas barely serviced by it. Thus, to argue for the abdication of the armed struggle, given the fact that the state, not a heterogeneous one, but fully in the grip of a cabal of military-industrial interests, is armed to the teeth. The Indonesian experience, still too recent to forget, already indicates or confesses to corporatized theorizing for peace in our time. On the other hand, the premium placed on the original tenet, subject as it is to a more dynamic reading as universal invested on specifics, theory on practice, and practice on theory, presumes that the social structures have remained static, although changes have been construed as equally destabilizing. To say the least, classism hold the key to the reading of both, which mode has been already marginalized in the discourse. This is most disturbing, unquote. The armed struggle waged by the communist forces is not even a point to be considered, especially within the liberal discourse of deliberative democracy rendered with some oversimplification, let's talk, not fight. This, of course, indicates how academics are fighting the reasonable fight as everything can now be subject to deliberations. What his position does not say is that everything can be deliberated save for the rupture in private property relations, because that entails violence. We know that it is happening, but it is happening elsewhere, and the academe is a different space. Yet the academe also produced Ferdinand Marcos and others. What is rarely said of deliberative democracy is its very own failure to see the refutation of Marx and his theory of class struggle as itself class struggle. Garcellano's exposition of the academe's liberal versions of autonomization and liberalism, or academic freedom, or how the academe is supposed to be autonomous from the property relations which structure society, can only lead to a partisanship that excludes a discourse that precisely challenges the same property relations that structure society. The sobriety and reason presumed in the process of autonomization or academic freedom are critiqued by Edel as one, the normalization of hegemonic state discourse or de-ideologization, the denial of class struggle and therefore of political interest or apoliticization, and the denial of our very own existence of national oppression and class exploitation in a semi-colony, and the tactical and strategic ways in which a counter-hegemonic force to which Garcellano invites partisanship challenges the whole setup. If I were to oversimplify what I had learned and continue to learn from Edel, I don't think anybody is asking me to do that. But maybe we want something of this sort in this occasion. And I will say this. First, in the Philippine academe, allegiance to the establishment is always taken for academic rigor and ethical sobriety. Second, but also in the Philippine academe, one learns and is compelled by academic freedom as both the instrument and stake of the national democratic revolution towards socialism. Those points would not have found a place in the academe's so-called terrain of contention without Garcellano's interventions. Long live Edel Garcellano.
You're watching First Person Plural, a tribute in remembrance of Edel Garcellano. For our third and final segment, we have a tribute from the UP Faculty Regent Ramon Guillermo, and a former colleague at UP and now professor at Barnard College, Neferti Tadiar, and a friend and journalist, Kenneth Guda.
Isa si Edel Garcellano sa mga huling wild man ng Diliman. Naalala ko pa ang iba tulad ni Ingo de Guzman, Arnold Azurin, at syempre marami pang iba. Maaaring hindi magkakasundo ang mga ito. Maaaring magkakaaway pa nga. May panahon noong pagkatapos ng EDSA na naging signifikante ang kanilang produksyong intelektual sa loob at labas ng pamantasan. Kasabay marahil ito ng panahon ng pag-usbong at paglipas din ng panahon ng tinatawag na teorya. Hindi tulad ng marami ngayon na hindi makapagsulat ng 20 pahinang papel para sa journal kung walang pondo mula sa inaplayang research grant, daan-daan ng mga pahinang kanilang isinulat na minimal lamang ang suporta mula sa anumang institusyon. Passion lamang para sa pag-iisip ang tumutulak sa kanila. Hindi mahalaga sa kanila ang mga degree, mga letrang nakadikit lamang sa pangalan na wala naman talagang sinasabi hinggil sa kalidad o orihinalidad ng pag-iisip. Wala silang pakialam sa etiquette ng akademya. Wala silang sinasambang mga panukpoon at bathala. Digmaan ng mga ideya ang kanilang kaisa-isang misyon. At para sa kanila minsan, ang labanan ng ideya ay hindi may iwasang maging personalan, totoong banatan. Kaya naman halos wala silang makapitan sa universidad kung saan maraming puon at bathalak. Minsan ay nababanggit ni Edel sa akin na hindi sapat ang mga unit na ipinapagturo sa kanya kahit para pang gasolina. Nararamdaman niya ang panggigipit sa kanyang kabuhayan. Maaaring hindi magkakasundo ang mga wild man na ito. Maaaring magkakaaway sila. Maaaring mahirap talaga silang makasundo. Maaaring hindi rin ako sang-ayon sa karamihan ng kanilang mga pananaw o sinulat. Pero malaking kawalan sa universidad na nawawala na ang mga katulad nila. Noong ni-require ang pagsusuot ng mga ID sa UP, ito ang una kong naisip. Paano napapasok sina Ingo, Arnold at Edel kung wala silang ID? Paano sila manggugulo sa mga talakayan sa Claro M. Recto Hall sa Faculty Center? Paano pag wala na ang mga boses katulad nila?
When I heard of Edel's death, I was at a loss for words. So I turned to read Edel's words, around which I now grow mine. Edel viewed with suspicion and contempt the world buoyed by accolades, the worlds of literary enterprise and its rewards. He mocked the trade of poetry, quote, or the craft thereof. He called into question the poet's inclination to churn out the right words for a political massacre, the killing of farmers, for the kinds of infliction of violence and common atrocities that make for the poet's surroundings. He questioned who would benefit from the poet's choices, and whether the poet could rise above the fray of spin masters in the Senate, political candidates ruling with iron fists, peasants protesting on the streets, whether the poet could rise above this political fray, quote, without cheap sentiment, without, quote, stereotypical militancy and compassion. He railed against the emptiness and delusion of life in the midst of the vicious, unforgiving rules that order our world. Rules that made for an existence of, quote, nothingness and habitual perdition, of, quote, shifting seasons of pennilessness and dereliction. In his self-deprecating way, he deplored the part we played in a shared fate, quote, the irrefutable fact that like a propeller, we keep on turning in an endless whirring until the battery turns low and we expire. And yet, despite knowing it, we somehow philosophized we idiots are alive. Edel played with the word idiot repeatedly. It was an ambivalent word he used for himself as well as others. It could signify that dogged persistence in the only delusions left to one as a deadening order took away all meaning and meaningful possibility. Or it could mean the very incapacitation of one's senses, the disabling of one's capacities to speak, think, learn, as the very means and consequence of that ruling order. When a former student, a nice, cool kid, is arrested for subversion, quote, thrown the book for questioning the state of affairs, the odd story, repeated 1,000,000 times, becomes itself the means of a regime's disavowals. The terror in the telling that absolves criminals and politicians as if it were routinary and therefore false, leaving nothing for him to say, hold on to, teach, as if the regime has turned him into an idiot. Edel lamented the pernicious use and uselessness of words, their repeated, even reliable loss and failure, their use as, quote, ploys to forge a strategic assault. And yet he wrote and spoke so many. The poet was an impossible figure, and poetry an impossible task, and yet he persisted in writing poems. This poetry, he once wrote, is just a tapestry of words that we launch like an inflatable raft in the rising flood. He knew deeply these paradoxes he chose to inhabit, but he refused to settle for the ideological comforts that others padded their consciences with. He would not make it easy for himself. In a world full of compulsory insensibility, the idiot was a persona he both played to the hilt and constantly decried. There was nothing romantic about Edel's choices, the blessing curse of being the maverick, suffering and performing the idiocy designated for those who could not align themselves to the common sense of the establishment or the good sense of its literary front. He certainly suffered the consequences, not just the exclusion from its sought-after rewards, recognition, compensation, legitimacy, and security, but also the loss of friends, of once allies who, in reaching for higher places, were subject to the convenient forgetting of all that they had fought against, all that they were becoming. Most painfully, the loss of close relations, of channels of more intimate understanding. He would not be one to heroicize any life, least his own. But there are now generations of us who were deeply shaped and inspired by precisely these very qualities of Edel, which made him a non-heroic, critical intellectual who always remained on the outside of institutionalized authority, always unsettling the normalized state of things. He captivated and provoked us, thrilling us with his dripping irony, his constantly daring and often startlingly provocative views, his wicked wit, his daily quips and critiques, his self-abnegating and mocking tones, all those words that kept us on the edge of our own comfort zones, uttered in classroom lectures, cafeteria conversations, hallway exchanges. That's how I came to know Edel, by the way, in the hallway of FC outside of the UP English Department reading room, where we were waiting our turn to be interviewed for instructor positions 35 years ago. We both got positions and became more than colleagues, fast friends. We often hung out in the basement cafeteria of the faculty center with Nick Atienza or in my office after teaching, always trading words. When I went to the US for graduate study a few years later, I would send him my seminar papers and essays, which he would unfailingly give me feedback on. In turn, he would share his books. His encouraging and generous suggestions, his critical perspectives and knowledge, the people and works he introduced me to all became part of my own work and mind. I do not know that I would have written what I wrote without his critical questions in my head. I saw him every year when I returned, seeking his thoughts, his advice, his company. And every year I met all the emerging critics, writers, and activists who also came under his influence or gravitated toward him. We laughingly called him a negatron for his relentless criticism of everything. But it was what we truly admired and were drawn to. It was how we were inspired. We're lucky that he has left us much writing, critical essays that demonstrated the limits of writers' imaginations and sensibilities, poetry that gave expression to the frailties, impotence, and pathos of human yearning in an order of constant and constantly rewarded violence and rapacity. Edel used words, written and spoken, to interrupt and take down this order, to put things in their places or reorder them, and in this way, in the realm of feeling and thought, he rearranged our surroundings, our orientations toward ourselves and others. It was how he changed our worlds and us. If there is any testament to Edel's lasting legacy, it is not in the annals of awards and recognitions. It is in the proof here before us and in us that he was a formidable force of social gathering, of intellectual political momentum and formation across generations. It is in the possibility nurtured by his own life's work that these future generations will turn out to be what, in another savage summer, he longed for as much for the world as for himself. That is, quote, human voices to wake you up as if from a sad, sad sleep. In that moment, which is imminent in our own and every present, we will no doubt hear the deep radical echoes of Edel's own words and voice ringing in our ears.
Magandang gabi po sa mga kaanak, kaibigan, estudyante at tagahanga ni Sir Edel. Taos pusong pahiramay po sa pagpanaw niya. Tulad ng marami sa mga nagsalita at nagbigay pugay kay Edel Garcellano, naging estudyante rin niya ako. Naalala ko sa dalawang subject ito. Isang kursong creative writing essay at emergent literature. Pero hindi niya ako nagraduhan dahil sa dalawang pagkakataong ito at sa diwa ng rebelyon sa otoridad na kinahumalingan ko noon. Pareho ako nag-drop sa kursong ito. Ngayon man, kilala ko si Sir Edel sa mga sulatin niya. Lalo na sa mga sanaysay niya noon sa Dilim Review na nakuha ko sa Center for Nationalist Studies Library na naging tambayan namin noon ng organization ko. Mula sa malayo, masugid kong sinubaybayan yung mga talk, mga forum, mga kinatapukan ni Sir Edel. Sa isang forum, naalala ko yung self-deprecating humor niya. Kahanan niya kasi yung mga scholar na sina Neferti Tadiar at Jonathan Beller, kung hindi ako nagkakamali. Nakasuot siya ng t-shirt na manipis, no, na puti, na may nakasulat na Red Bull Energy Drink. So, promotional t-shirt. Ang sabi niya, I don't even know what I'm doing here, maybe for local color. Tawang-tawa ako sa hirit niya na siyang nagpapagaang sa lahat ng mga talakayan hinggil sa kultura, politika at radikal na pagkilos. Pero mas personal kong nakilala si Sir Edel nung nagsusulat na ako para sa alternatibong pahayagang Pinoy Weekly. Sinasadya niya noon yung opisina namin para magpa-type kay RC Asa ng mga tula niya. Ang hula ko noon, may dalawang posibilidad kung bakit niya ginagawa ito. Una, hindi siya marunong mag-computer. Pangalawa, dahil gusto lang niya makahuntahan si RC. No? And by extension, kami siguro sa Pinoy Weekly. Sabi kasi niya sa isang sanaysay, naalala ko, may masamang gawi daw siya na mag-survey ng mga batang gunslinger as it were on the block. Pero malas niya, wala siyang nakita sa amin dahil medyo matagal na kami sa barilan, kumbaga. Pero gusto kong isiping natuwa rin naman siya sa amin. Mga aktivistang mamamahayag na nagsusulat, nagpo-propaganda, nung walang tinatanggap na sahod halos. Naglalabas ng pahayagan na hindi matatagpuan sa mga newsstand, kundi sa mga komunidad ng mga maralita, sa mga pabrika, sa mga bukid at nayon. Sabi nga ng mga pulis, kapag may hawak ang Pinoy Weekly, pasaway ka at gusto mong manira sa gobyerno. Anyway, pupunta siya noon tuwing press work. Sinisingit ni RC yung pagtatype ng mga tula niya sa pagitan ng pagsusulat at pag-edit. Pagkatapos, ayayain niya kaming kumain sa malapit na KFC. Habang ninunguya namin yung zinger ng libre niya, pinakukwento niya kami tungkol sa trabaho namin, tungkol sa iba't ibang bagay sa buhay ng pagkilos. Parang nabawasan na ang smart aleki na hirit niya, na trademark niya nung nasa UP siya. Naging mabait siya na kaibigan sa amin. Minsan, source din kami niya ng pinakahuling mga balita hinggil sa paborito niyang basketball team sa NBA. Sabi niya, nakakatawa naman tayo, lagi nag-aabang ng balita hinggil sa mga produkto ng imperialismo. Pero ano ba naman ang isa o dalawang guilty pleasures, di ba? Kahit pa ikaw ang pinakamabangis na kritiko ng ating panahon. Noong 2006, book launch ng unang aklat ng mga tula ni Bayani Abadilla, yung news editor namin na nung panahong yun ay may malubhang sakit na dumalo si Edel at nagsalita. No? Parang who's who ng mga makabayang manunulat yung dumalo. Nandoon yung editor namin, editor-in-chief na si Rogelio Ordonez, nandoon si Helasio Guillermo, si Bonnie Ilagan, nandoon din si Pitla Kaaba, naalala ko. Sabi ng isang tagapagsalita, maraming nagtatanong sa kanya kung reaffirm o reject siya ang tindig niya sa mga debate noong dekada 90 sa loob ng kilusang kaliwa. Sabi raw niya, hindi siya reaffirm, hindi siya reject, kundi retired. Nung nagsalita si Edel, silagot niya to, pinatutsadahan niya yung una nagsalita. Sinabi niya, wala namang nagre-retiro dapat sa pakikibaka. So patawa niyang sinabi yun. So, hindi naman aktivista si Edel. sa kadalasang pakahulugan ng aktivista. Pero aktivista ang intelektual na tradisyong niyakap at tinambagan niya. Ang pinakamataas na antas ng filosofiya at kritisismo, ang kritisismong malay sa limitasyon nito dahil ang punto ay mabago naman talaga yung lipunan. Ngayong wala na siya, hindi pa rin nagretiro ang diwa ng kritisismo ni Sir Edel. Niyakap na kasi nito ng kung ilang henerasyon ng mga estudyante niya, ng mga mamamahayag, ng mga organikong intelektual, na sa salita niya, nasa margin of margins ngayon. Sinikap na isabuhay ang makatwirang paglaban na halos buong buhay na ipinagtanggol ni Edel Garcellano sa kanyang maraming sulatin, sa kanyang mga talumpati, sa kanyang akto. Maraming salamat po at muli taos-pusong pakikiramay sa mga kaanak, kaibigan, estudyante at tagahanga ni Edel Garcellano.
At this point, may I invite the concerned artists of the Philippines who will share a message through the organization's Secretary General, Luisa Gomez-Reyes.
Magandang gabi po sa lahat. Kaisa niyo po ang concerned artists of the Philippines sa pagluluksa at pagdadalamhati para kay Edel Garcellano, guro, manunulat, makata at kritiko na ating hinahangaan. Nakikiramay po kami sa pamilya at kay Lila at lalo na kay Lira na kasama natin sa CAP. First person plural ang title nitong parangal, pero paumanhin kung hindi po ito first person account. Hindi po ako nagkaroon ng opportunity o pagkakataon na makuha ang anumang klase niya noon bilang fine arts major na walang elective. But even then, Edel Garcellano was a familiar name in the circles that I grew up with during the repressive regimes of Estrada to Arroyo. He was a beloved friend and professor to people I knew since college, mostly writers of the Philippine Collegian's Cultura section, who were usually from the College of Arts and Letters or the College of Sciences, Social Sciences and Philosophy, or activists in the student movement, most of whom in time became colleagues and comrades who I deeply respect. And the weight of their loss is a collective one as well. Yung mga to na taga-collegian, madalas tuwing press work namin, lagi nilang pinag-uusapan si Edel at kung ano ang sinabi niya o kung ano naman ang ginawa niya during that time. Looking back, kahit vicarious ang kanilang ang sharing na ito, I realized that I was also witnessing, however secondhand, their formative years of an ethical and critical outlook towards the world, which teachers like Edel helped instill within and beyond the classroom. So yun, even giving this simple tribute scares me because number one, for whatever personal or ideological gaps that it might reflect, and number two, just knowing that he lives on in the people that he touched with such tough love and generosity of vision. As part of a larger people's movement, we celebrate Edel Garcellano's life and practice for the many lessons that the cultural frontliners of his generation teach us. One, that as part of engaging in the problems of Philippine society and revolution, it is crucial to weigh the acts of writing or any cultural practice for that matter, not as techne or skill alone, but as historically and ideologically situated imagination and agency. His poetry, his essays, his statements on issues such as red tagging and withholding of tenureship for colleagues, all of these contributed to making felt with a cutting clarity the larger historical stakes of making a brave stand against power, wherever we may be. Two, that since now we are in the time of fascism and pandemic combined, there is a need to build a resistance, both physically and ideologically. Napakahalaga po dito ng paglulugar sa produksyon sa makauring diskurso at kritisismo. Mahalaga po ngayon, napakasigla po ngayon actually ng artistic production. Sa pelikula, pagsusulat, sining visual, marami pang iba. Pero dapat ganun din ang interogasyon nito. Mahalaga ang kritisismo na sabi niya ay maaaring hindi para sa lahat, quote-unquote, pero para na rin talaga ito sa lahat. Sa mga estudyante at kaibigan ni Professor Garcellano, kasama po kayo sa pagsasalin at paglago ng kamalayang ito sa mas marami at lalo na sa hanay ng masa. Mahalaga po ang inyong ginagawa ngayon, no, tulad nitong tribute, upang maging physically o digitally accessible ang kanyang mga akda at ideya at lalo na ang kanyang alaala. Napakahalaga nito lalo na sa mga conditions natin din ngayon ng lockdown at limitasyon na dulot ng enhanced community quarantine. So yun po, mahaba pa po yung digmaan at kailangan natin ng mga tulad ni Edel sa panahong ito. Mga alagad ng sining na may kritikalidad, politika at higit sa lahat, integridad na nakasandig sa makauring pagsusuri at paninindigan. Pagpupugay po kay Edel Garcellano, padayon sa mga artista ng bayan na nagpapatuloy ng laban, paglingkuran ang sambayanan. Magandang gabi po.
Thank you, Lisa. Of course, our program will not be complete without a message from a former student who has been tirelessly organizing conferences and gatherings to revitalize the potency of the works of Sir Edel. Representing the Edel Garcellano Study Group, Jess Villafuerte.
Magandang gabi po sa lahat. Nandito lang po ako para magbigay ng update sa 5-year plan ng Edel Garcellano Study Group. Ngayon pong 2020, may nakatakda ng lecture series sa June. Ito po ay Kritika Kultura Lecture Series. Magtutulungan po ang PUP at Ateneo. June po yung schedule nito kaso dahil sa mga nangyari nitong mga nakaraang buwan, baka matulak po siya sa last quarter ng taon. So yun po yung unang activity dapat ng EGS sa 2020. Yung pangalawa po, hindi po kami magkakaroon ng third Edel Garcellano Conference ngayong taon. Papaliwanag ko po mamaya kung bakit. Pero pinagsama po namin lahat ng mga papel mula sa una at pangalawang conferences. At ang plano po namin ay i-publish to bilang special edition o special section ng isang journal. So sa kasalukuyan, may hawak na po kaming 8 papel at nagsusulisit pa po kami ng 7 pa para maging 15 lahat. Ngayon po sa 2021, ang major project ng EGS dito ay yung 3rd Edel Garcellano Literary and Cultural Studies Conference. Bakit po namin nilagay sa 2021? Kasi yung unang 2 po, hindi kami nakapaglabas ng call for paper. So, mas invitation lang siya. Ito pong 3rd Edel Garcellano Conference, meron ng call for papers po ito. Open na po ito sa lahat. So, tinakda po namin to ng 2021. 21 at 22, 2021, 2022, nakatakda po ang republication ng ilan sa mga libro ni Sir Edel, yung pinablish po muna ng PUP. So yung una, yung Sons of Nauhan, nakausap na po namin yung kaibigan natin sa PUP Press, yung director po ng PUP Press. So kasi limitado po yung kopya na na-publish ng unang edition ng Sons of Nauhan. Nasa 200 lang po yata kasi may problema sa makina. Pero sa pagdating po ng 2021, i-republish po siya at susubukan po naming isama sa republication yung isa pang libro ni Sir Edel sa PUP Press, yung Interventions. Sa 2023 po, ang plano po namin ay maglabas na ng CFP para sa festschrift ni Sir Edel at yung pang-5 taon, 2024, pang-4 pala, 2024, yung publication ng festschrift. So, 24 or 25, doon po yung publication ng festschrift na pinaplano ng Edel Garcellano Study Group. Yun lang po. Marami pong salamat sa inyo.
Maraming salamat, Jess. Last but not the least, we have with us the beloved family of Sir Edel, whom he shared decades of his life. We have with us tonight Ma'am Chato, Risa, Lyra, who are also going to share a few words.
Hi. Okay, I'm new. Mama. Okay, I'm actually brimming with gratitude for what has been happening. Thank you for sharing your memories about my father, for protecting his memories and adding to our memories. I am very grateful for your protectiveness of when he was still with us and when he isn't anymore. A big thank you goes to the people that I have yet to meet, but I'm looking forward to. That would be Carlos, Jayson, Carl, Jomar, Kay, and Led. Maraming salamat. In Indonesia, they say terima kasih banyak. Thank you for having my father close to your heart.
I don't know. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Well, I can't see anybody, so I just can see you.
Okay, go.
Can you? I don't know. Wait, hang on. I only see you, so it's kind of weird to actually be speaking to you. But at any rate,
maybe Jomar can help. Maybe they can see you. I know they can see you.
Lyra, you may start.
Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
All right.
Huh?
Okay.
Well, anyway,
Yes.
I don't see anybody, so, but this is what I just wanted to say. It's very short, and it's not like I prepared anything, but like what Risa said, thank you so much to everybody who organized this. You guys are all very kind, and thank you to all the people who spoke. I mean, there were many things that I learned as well. As I've been telling a few people who are close to me and who was also close to my father, is that my father and I had a very different relationship in terms of like, while the students they shared a few things that I never imagined, because our dynamics were very, very different. I mean, father and daughter are very different from student teacher. And but I guess even if we had our own ways of communicating, it was mostly not through words, but probably through gestures through the years. I mean, even if people have oftentimes told me that sometimes they remind me of him. Of course, as a daughter, I couldn't see that, But one thing that struck me, and I thought it was like funny, was because like Neferti was talking about the word idiots, is because that word idiots is that I just chuckled a little bit, because in this household I've always like made a joke that sometimes I wish I was a happy idiot. If you were a happy idiot, you don't have to think, you don't have to really, you're just gonna be out there, you don't have to worry about other people's problems, you don't have to cry over the way things are going on with this world, and because you don't need to, because you just are an idiot. And then of course somebody mentioned to me that somebody would message me and say things like, oh, so your dad likes NBA and then you happen to like Starbucks. And then I also remember a few times like some people would say like, your father actually likes Starbucks? Well, yeah, I guess he did. But in a way also, that was his gesture for me. Like whenever I felt very sad, because we did not really speak much, what he would do is actually he would buy me a drink. He would make sure that even when I'm at my lowest point, I would just go downstairs and go to the refrigerator, and when I open it, that would be my Starbucks drink. That's how we showed things. That's how we did things together. And we loved our cats. We loved them very much. We grieved so much when they passed away. But I think one thing I remember so much is that when he left us, because I was the one with him, as well as my mother, I just thought of that, you know what, he's going to be with our cats now. And that was what was important. So at any rate, I'm like what Risa said, it will be nice to meet some of you, and some I've only met through chatting, and some because I was his kid. So they would meet me, but we never really spoke much about stuff other than that. I was like, they would ask me whenever I bump into other people, like his students or his colleagues, they will just ask me the same thing. Kamusta tatay mo? And I would just say, same thing. Same. But yeah, so thanks again. We appreciate it. And we appreciate like what Risa said, we appreciate the way you honored him, the way you are honoring him, and we'll be really be forever grateful. On that note, like here's my mother. She would like to say a few things. Thank you. Yeah, she just
Hi everyone. Louder. It passed in such a sad time, in this terrible and oppressive time. Louder. And the only thing I could think of when he passed, as we held him in our arms, is that we wouldn't have a proper wake. I wouldn't have his friends and colleagues and family members coming to talk about him, and primarily to cheer me up. It was a selfish thought. But this gathering makes up for my sadness, makes up for my regret that there is no proper service yet for our Edel. I am so grateful that you are here to talk about him, remember him, think of him as your friend and your teacher and your interlocutor. For the longest time, he was mine. We spent such a long time together. Ever since I saw him seated on the steps of the library, looking at me, and I said, "Ang yabang nito ah." Sabi ko ganun. But he was such a great guy. We had such a long time together. I am unable to come to terms yet with the idea that we have lost him. I am trying to cope, but you are helping me very much with your loving memories. I am of course determined to proceed as we have always proceeded, to comport myself as Edel Garcellano's wife and partner, his reader, and also his interlocutor, and always to remember what he and I have talked about. It's a sad thing, but he just went ahead. I always tell myself that he is now in union with infinity. That is all I will aspire for again. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. My family and I are truly grateful. Jess, Jomar, Carlos, Neferti and Sarah, and Bliss, everyone else. I will remember you always. Don't forget him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Chato. Thank you, Lyra. Thank you, Risa. This is the end of our program. Thank you for joining us this evening for First Person Plural, a tribute in remembrance of Edel Garcellano. And before our gathering concludes, we have a final performance from MC. Again, this is Jomar Cuartero. Good night, everyone. We love you, Sir Edel. Happy birthday.
Sa dagat ng dilim, may Salamat